So what is up, guys? This is Nick here from Everything Tech, and welcome to this full review of the Apple iPhone 7. Now, if you haven't been around this channel, we make technology-based reviews that go really in depth, and you can go down below in the description area and go to the section that matters most to you. This is going to be a long review, so if you want the most in-depth, in-detail understanding that you can get of the iPhone 7 to go along with your research, this might be the video for you. But if you don't have the time, if you're at work, you're trying to take a break, this is going to be a long video, so brace up for that. Buckle your seatbelts because we're about to be here a while on this road trip to the end of this video. But basically, we're going to go through everything you need to know about this baby, and we're going to start with the hardware tour of the iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7 on the front of this device has a 4.7-inch 1334 by 750p display, which is Retina HD, and Apple says this is 25% brighter than the past iPhone 6s, as well as a better color gamut or better color accurate display, DCI P3, aka all that tech spec mumbo jumbo means is this is cinema grade quality on your iPhone 7. Now don't get that confused. Just because it's cinema grade means it's color accurate. Doesn't mean it's sharper than something like a 2K display. It's definitely not as sharp as something like a Samsung Galaxy S7 or even as punchy as an AMOLED display. It's just the best Apple could do with their LCD displays for now. And the reason I think they did that is because they're going to be pushing out an AMOLED screen in 2018. So they wanted to do the best they could this year so they don't make people not want to buy the iPhone. So it's more probably marketing. I didn't notice that much of a difference between this and a 6S, but it is a little bit noticeable. I mean, after a couple of days, you'll forget it's even there. Whereas if you had a Samsung S7, you would notice that day after day, wow, this is a punchy display. So yeah, that's the display. Now, on the top, we have a 7-megapixel camera here, a light sensor, as well as our earpiece for talking on phone calls. At the bottom, we do have that fingerprint scanner slash taptic button, which is basically a vibration capacitive touch taptic engine. When you tap it now, it is more capacitive. You don't actually physically press it. So if you look closely at the button, you don't see any click action. You don't see that button recessing at all because this is now capacitive touch here. At the bottom of the iPhone 7, we do have the Lightning port. This is just a microphone for talking, no headphone jack. If you want to use your headphones, you now have to use the dongle that is included in the box here. Lightning port to your 3.5mm headset jack, and that will hang out just a little bit. I didn't even use it because I didn't really want to use that thing. It's a little bit, I don't like things hanging from my phone, but that's just me, you know. Also, you can get through the headphone jack through using Bluetooth. You can get some headphones. You can also buy some Lightning headphones. I think Marquez Brownlee did a video on how all the awesome headphones you could do. You could check out his video for that. But anyway, over here you could see that the Torx screws, typical Apple design. Looks pretty nice. I like the seamless look, but no headphone jack is that might be something you like, that might be something you don't care about, might be something you dislike totally, and might be a deal breaker for you. But over here on the right of the device, we do have the power button here, and don't mind me if I'm moving the phone too much. It's because this phone's so slippery, I don't want it to drop. So you can see right here, we do have the power button here, the antenna inline. So if you look at the iPhone 7 from the right, it does still look like an iPhone 6S, and down here the antenna inline. So on the left side of the device, antenna inlines on the bottom and top. You do have your mute switch right here and silence switch, whatever you want to call it. Power buttons up and down there, nice and tactile feedback there. Feels very solid here. Both of these switches feel very in place, no creaks and pops or nothing like that. Typical Apple quality. So let's go over to the back here, and you can see that we do have this 12-megapixel iSight camera that comes in at f1.8 aperture, which I did a most detailed camera review on the planet. You could check that video out right up here in a card. It'll also be down below. I'm not going to run this through a crazy camera test here in this video because I did 2 different camera videos, which you can check those out. Like I say, all the videos down below on this. And right here is a quad LED dual tone flash. So that's pretty nice stuff there. Apple logo here with the chrome inlay, no painted on there. You can see there's chrome in there. Going down to the bottom, iPhone logo with a slightly different font from previous iPhones. Let me pull in my iPhone SE just to show you what I'm talking about. iPhone, you see that? That's like the older iPhone font. You can see it got a little bit smaller and a little bit bolder there on the new iPhones. A little bit different, not too much different though. Designed by Apple in California. You could see my IMEI, whatever. And no FCC branding anymore here. So the antenna inlines do kind of curve out, giving it a more seamless design. You could hardly even see it on the black, although silver is my favorite color. Just a personal opinion there. So we looked at the bottom, nothing on the top of the device. And that's pretty much the hardware, the physical piece of hardware that you're going to get here with the iPhone 7. Now let's talk about the device specifications, processor and RAM, and then we'll get into the size and ergonomics and build quality of this device. All right, guys, if you decide to pick up the Apple iPhone 7 in terms of its specifications, what you're gonna get here basically in terms of the processor unit is you're gonna get an Apple A10 Fusion chipset, which is basically 40% faster than the iPhone's previous iPhone's A9 CPU, although it's not really noticeable unless you're doing something heavy like exporting. You're also getting 2 gigabytes of RAM here, which is basically like getting 3 gigabytes of RAM on an Android because it's very optimized. Now the 7 Plus gives you 3 gigs of RAM, but this is just the 7. So 2 gig of RAM, Apple A10 Fusion chip, and we talked about the other specs like the camera and the screen before that. So yeah, that's pretty much what you get there on the specifications of this device. Also on the GPU, you do get 6-core graphics, which is pretty close to what we had before on the previous iPhone. So gaming is going to be a champ here once again when Mario comes out for it. So you don't have to worry about gaming or nothing like that. Anything else we want to mention here? We do have support for Apple Pay on this device here. You can use Visa cards, MasterCards, Amex certified. And also this device is water resistant. So not waterproof, water resistant. So if you get some splashes on it, you accidentally drop it in the pool, you drop it in the toilet when you're taking a shit, whatever, you can take it out of there and it should be just fine. Also, IP67 means that it's, you know, up to 5 meters, up to 5 minutes, something like that. And basically, you're not going to have a problem if there's an accidental drop. Now, this also does have dust protection. So if you get a little bit of dust, if you have a dusty job, you can go ahead and not get dust in your device. What else do we want to mention? This does have support for the latest Bluetooth 4.2, I believe it is on the Bluetooth. Let's see this really quickly here. Yeah, version 4.2 for the Bluetooth, and this is a reversible connector down here as well. It does have an accelerometer on this device, and it comes in 3 storage capacities, which is 32 gigs to start at 649, 128, 749, and 256 at 849 here. It does come with iOS 10.0.1, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's pretty much the specifications that I think matter. You do get ABG and AC Wi-Fi with dual band support and hotspot connectivity here as well. Active noise cancellation with the mic port as well here. And that's pretty much it. Gyroscope, proximity sensor, you know all that stuff is here. And this is an ion strengthened glass with an oleophobic coating on top, which will show more fingerprints after you use the device for a while. But pretty strong stuff here. And that's pretty much it on the device specifications of the iPhone 7. Now let's talk about my personal thoughts on the build quality, the display, and the glass quality. All right, guys, in terms of the build quality of the Apple iPhone 7, it's been pretty solid. I mean, it's Apple build quality, you get an aluminum body, and while this was pretty amazing several years ago, very premium, it's still premium to this day, but it's not very surprising. I think a lot of people are used to having a premium device, so it's nothing that, you know, blows you away. It's not gonna be mind-blowing. It does feel very nice, very premium. It's just, it feels like that the market has caught up to this whole premium design thing, and that for the price, it seems like you can get a device that feels just as premium for a way less price, such as like the OnePlus 3 or something like that. But overall, build quality, typical stuff. Do we even need to talk about this? We know it's strong build quality. Nothing like the iPhone 6. It's not creaky in any way, shape, or form. It's not gonna bend like the iPhone 6 did in some scenarios. I'm not saying all iPhone 6s bended, but I did find a little bit of rattling on my previous iPhone 6, whereas this one is pretty tight construction all around. So very refined build quality here. Glass did not scratch at all in my time testing this. Had keys in the pocket, had a tripod in the bag. you know, no scratches anywhere on this device. So, I mean, I did keep it in a case most of the time, but when it was out of the case, it still didn't scratch. It got a little bit of dirt marks, but wiped it off and it was clean. The touch button here does feel nice and premium as well, this capacitive touch button. It feels hard, kind of. I don't know how else to describe it. It feels like a hard press right here when you press it. You can change your click levels, but it just feels like the button's just, it's like you're tapping it's like you're tapping the bezel, but then you feel a vibration. That's how I can describe how that feels here on the iPhone 7. Now the switches, they don't rattle at all here on this iPhone 7. I didn't notice any looseness on the switches here. And overall, seamless design. I didn't find any little imperfections here on the way the glass sits in the aluminum encasing enclosure. So overall, build quality, display quality, everything is a win here for the iPhone 7. I mean, I think that's what we all expected. But in my experience, probably one of the tightest built iPhones ever. The iPhone 6s was right up there with this, but I think this one is just slightly stronger, as every iteration just gets a little bit stronger than the previous version. So very strong build quality here, 10 out of 10 on the build quality. Now let's get into the screen display sharpness, resolution, and viewing. So Apple has made a big deal about this being the best Retina display on the market. Some people have been saying that, some news articles have been saying this is the best iPhone display ever, one of the best displays on the market, and I would say this is one of the best displays on the market under 1080p. This is nowhere near the best display on the market in terms of, you know, the mainstream consumer is going to look at this in the store. Look at the Galaxy S7 in the store, and I'm not a Samsung rep. I don't work for Samsung. I do like Samsung devices, but I love Apple devices as well. They're both awesome devices. I like HTCs as well. It's everything tech around here, not one thing tech. Point being, in my assessment, I've seen people time and time again, they look at the Samsung display, they look at the Apple display, and 9 out of 10 times they're always going to say that the Samsung's S7 display just looks better. Does that mean they choose the Galaxy S7 over the iPhone 7? Absolutely not. But in terms of just the display, I think most iPhone users will look at an S7 and be like, yeah, you got the leg up on me on display. I got to give you that. But that doesn't mean they're going to go hop and get an S7. But talking about this display in general, it's very color accurate. I'm not bashing it at all. It's a very nice display. It's very easy to read this display. I just think over time, if you look at what's out on the competition, for $700, I think it's slacking just a little bit in the terms of its resolution. Not the way the color balances are, the brightness, that's all just fine and dandy. Just the resolution. Now, the iPhone 7 Plus with its 1080p is probably really an awesome, amazing display. But this one with its 750 display, if you look at any 2K display and then you look at this, you are going to notice this is not quite as sharp. But one thing that I want to say about this iPhone 7 display is it's probably one of the brightest, most color accurate, best displays on the market in terms of those areas. So let's put it this way. In terms of resolution, in terms of sharpness, nothing, I mean, this is not even close to the sharpest display. But in terms of them tweaking this display, getting it to look the best it can, I don't think any other phone has tweaked the display to look this good for what you get. So overall, if I had to give this a score on a 1 to 10, I'd give this phone a 7 out of 10 on the display, where I would give the S7 like a 9 out of 10. So overall, I think most users are going to be happy with this display. Average consumers, mainstream consumers, people who aren't really into all that techie specky stuff are not going to give two shits if this display is 750 or not. They're still going to love this display. So overall, 7 out of 10 for me. Let me know your thoughts on the display down below. That DCI-P color gamut does make a difference, and it is a little bit punchier. It's just not AMOLED display here. And I think most people are going to agree that AMOLED is the superior technology right now. So now let's get into the iOS software included in this device. All right, guys, if you decide to pick up an iPhone 7, out of the box, you're going to get iOS 10.0. Now, I did install iOS 10.0.1, which I recommend you guys install as well. But in terms of the software, all iPhone 7s will come with iOS 10. Basically, you get the widgets to the left here. You do get a few enhancements in terms of abilities to delete old Apple icons. There are some 3D touch enhancements, such as quick reply from the lock screen. You get a different notification tray here. You get a new control center as well here. New animations, they look a little bit snappier and smoother. It does feel like a quicker operating system here. on iOS 10. You do get a couple new wallpapers, but they did remove a lot of wallpapers, which I didn't like too much. You get a redesigned music application here. You get a few features in the settings as well, but overall, I mean, it's the core experience is very similar to iOS 9. I mean, it's like, imagine it like this. You bought a car and you wanted to go ahead and upgrade it to, let's say, the limited model. So basically iOS 9 was the standard model now, you could say, and then you upgraded to the limited model that threw on like a good 10 to 20 to 30 core features. In the limited model, you paid an extra 10 grand. Basically, that's what this is, in my opinion. It's like iOS 9 with a bunch of extra features, basically, a bunch of extra little features, but very improved, very smooth, and I think that you guys are going to enjoy iOS 10 here. Now, I'm not going to go in depth everything on iOS 10. You can go ahead and read articles for that. Would be here all day talking about the 200 features or whatever that came in this new update here. But overall, it's a solid, soft piece of software. Probably one of the smoothest, if not the smoothest softwares in the business. Not very customizable, however. It's still a grid of icons. You still can't put your let's say, you can't take your app. Let's see your app here. You can't take your app and put it wherever you want. It's always gonna fly up there. So yeah, it's limited in some ways, but very refined and a very smooth experience. You could count on this software to get the job done. And it has some of the best quality apps on the market. You're not gonna find much better application quality because developers do develop first for the iPhone, and the iPhone 7 is going to be no exception in that regard. So yeah, that's iOS 10. Many new features, Siri enhancement, music enhancement, maps enhancements, widgets. You do have 3D touch enhancements, control center enhancements, night shift. You do have so much going on here with iOS 10. Like I say, I did some 10 hidden features on iOS 10. You can check those down below in the description card up here. And if you want to see more, just check out my iPhone 5S iOS 10 review. It pretty much gives you pretty much all you need to know on iOS 10, except for this one. Like, you got raised to wake here on the iPhone 7. So that's a new feature in iOS 10 as well. They stole that from Nokia, and I'd say, who's that else? Who did that as well? It was Nokia? I think Motorola did that. So you can go like that and easily get into your iPhone there. So that's iOS 10. Now let's get into the next section of this video, which is going to be the one-handed features and 3D touch features. All right, guys, so the Apple iPhone 7 does come with a few extra neat features that you're not going to get on like something like an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 5S. And basically that's 3D touch. So 3D touch is a pressure sensitive display. This was included on the iPhone 6S. So this is basically what was on the iPhone 6S, but I do want to include it here because it is included here on the 7, and a lot of people might be coming from an iPhone 6 and not know that this feature exists here. So you do get a pressure sensitive display, which basically allows you to force click on the, let's see, let's go home here, later, which allows you to force click on the App Store or whatever applications that are supported. Developers are still working hard to get this supported, where you can do other things. You can go ahead and turn on your Wi-Fi, and it does come in handy when you want to peek and pop into emails and stuff. So basically, if you got a message or something you want to peek in, you can peek into the message like so, and you can just kind of see a preview. For example, they show this a lot on Instagram. You can see this example. So you can do this on most Androids as well. But this right here, by the way, that's my Instagram. You can follow me down below. You can do this pretty much all over this entire operating system with 3D touch here on the iPhone 7. So that's one of the special features that comes. Also, this haptic feedback button. Now, that Taptic Engine does have a special feature in the iPhone 7, and it's under Sounds and Haptics. So if we go to Sounds and Haptics here, you can see System Haptics right there for the switches. So if you go ahead and turn on this, you can feel the Taptic Engine vibrate, and a couple other things throughout the OS vibrates. This Taptic Engine vibrates. So it's a very smooth vibration. You know, some say that the SE or the 5S was a harsh vibration, whereas the 6 series really improved how that vibrates. So yeah, you're gonna like this Taptic Engine here. That's another special feature, is that capacitive click. So you can set the clicks. You do have this one-handed feature called reachability here on the iPhone 7. So it basically makes it a small screen. I did find this very useful because once you open the app, you still have this large screen. If they were to able to shrink the whole OS into a small screen, kind of like what Samsung does on the Note series. I think that would have been a better feature, but overall it's there if you can't reach something. I mean, I don't think many people are going to use that, but it is there. Reachability is there. So that is the special features or the one-handed features that come with the iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7 does bring dual firing speakers. So on the bottom you do have your traditional speaker, and then they took the earpiece and made it a dual headphone speaker combo. So I'm going to take the mic off of me. You're going to hear a little popping possibly, or just me moving it around. But we're going to go ahead and test this out really quickly here. Now I know this is not going to be as easy to see on camera through this mic that is going to be in real life. Let's go ahead and watch one of my previous videos, iPhone 5S, should you upgrade? So what is up, guys? This is Nick here from Everything Tech, and welcome to this iPhone 5S versus iPhone 7. You see, you can still hear it when I cover the bottom. Basically, what I want to do in this video, my intentions are to help you decide if you have an iPhone 5S, if it's worthy to upgrade to the iPhone 7, or if... So yeah, that's pretty much what you get on the iPhone 7. It's a pretty strong speaker setup here. I do like it, very clear. It fires forward, so think of it like this. It comes out at you this way, and while it's probably not as strong as something like the Nexus 6 of the past and those Motorola front-facing speakers, or even the HTC Boom Sound, it's very clear and it's not distorted, so it feels like a quality speaker experience here on the iPhone 7. So I have to give it that there. Very quality speaker experience here on the iPhone 7. Now let's get into the next section, which is the iPhone special included features that you don't get on other devices. Alright guys, let's talk about call quality and band support. So this is an unlocked iPhone, and I had no trouble connecting this to a call. It was one of the best calling experiences I've ever had on a smartphone. HD voice, very crispy and clear. So if you do make a lot of phone calls, this is a great experience. However, if you guys wanted to know, the speaker does not fire right here. The music does not, or the person talking does not fire out of here, only down here on a speakerphone call. So that's something you might want to know there. But if you go ahead and you go into phone dialer application here, you can see that I do have no trouble calling people on this. And as previous iPhones probably didn't have this issue either. Caller sounded great, and I didn't hear anybody say there was a problem with that. Also, this has a very wide range of band support. So no matter where you are in the world, you're going to be able to get pretty solid, strong call quality here on the iPhone 7, no matter where you are. Just make sure you get your unlocked version if you're not going to be in the US on one of the 4 major carriers. So now let's get into gaming performance of the iPhone 7. Alright guys, I want to take a quick second to talk about the gaming performance of the iPhone 7, and it's better than ever here. It's super quick to load up a game here on the iPhone 7. You're not going to have any issues playing games here for the iPhone 7. Very buttery smooth graphics here for the iPhone 7, and games probably loaded faster on this than my Apple iPad Pro that has an A9X CPU, to be honest. So you have like Xbox 360 graphics quality here on the iPhone 7. So if you were wondering about gaming performance, I'm pretty sure a lot of you knew that this has one of the best gaming performances on the market. But bar none, this is like a portable little Xbox in your freaking, pocket, or let's say PS, whatever. Yeah, they're not the same console games, but this is like having a portable gaming system in your pocket. It's pretty awesome here to have that ability as well. This is pretty much a do everything device here, and gaming is not going to disappoint. We don't have to talk much more about gaming. If you want to run top level games, you're going to be able to do it here. Now, I do want to mention that if you do game, as in the past, it's going to eat the battery. Battery life did not improve when gaming. Battery life improved overall on iPhone 7, but if you're gaming, you're going to eat through that battery life. But I didn't notice any chops, frame rate delays, or nothing like that in any game that I tested here on the iPhone 7. So gaming is a total thumbs up here for your iPhone 7. Alright guys, let's talk about pocketability on the iPhone 7 here. Now, this phone is just about as thin as the iPhone 6s, but a little bit lighter. So if you had an iPhone before, you're going to know that this is a pretty pocketable device. 4.7 inches is pretty pocketable. For ladies with smaller pants, they might be sticking these out their back pocket where you'll see the Apple logo. You know who you are, sticking this half of the iPhone out to show off that Apple logo out of your back pockets. We know. But yeah, dudes, this will probably slip in your big pants pretty easily. You know, even an iPhone 7 Plus will probably slip in the dude's pants. Most dudes anyway. I'm not talking for all, but you know, most people, most guys, most girls would probably be able to fit this in their pocket as well. So pocketability is not going to be a problem here on the iPhone 7. Now the 7 Plus might be an issue for some of you smaller people out there. You might want to throw it in a small bag or a purse if you decide to get the 7 Plus. But this is the 7, and this is probably a pretty pocketable device, although it's not extremely pocketable like something like the iPhone SE. So you want to take that into consideration. So yeah, pocketability, I give this a score of 8 out of 10. I took off 2 points because it's not extremely pocketable, it's just very pocketable. The iPhone SE's Xperia Z Compact, those are extremely pocketable devices here. So very pocketable phone, and I think you're not going to have issues with its size in terms of taking it out on the go wherever you go. So now let's get into the camera section of the iPhone 7 here. Alright guys, let's talk about the iPhone 7 camera. Now I'm only going to briefly discuss this because I don't want to get too in depth. I did a full camera review on this, which I said earlier you could check out in the description area. But this is just a 12 megapixel iSight camera, f1.8 aperture, which means that the lens opens up a little bit more. You can let more light in the photo. If you go on the camera, it's the same stuff as before. You have live photos, you have the ability to turn on a timer, you have filters, HDR, flash, you do have photo, square, you have panoramic mode. They did move the icon to the bottom for selfie taking abilities. The 7 megapixel camera is strong here on the device as well. 7 megapixels, you got Retina flash for the front as well here. And overall, you do have the ability to shoot in 4K, which I also did a sample on the 4K. You could check that up in the card up here and down below. Like I said, once again, I don't want to go too in depth with this because I did extensive coverage on this camera. But overall, if you're looking for a really good camera, this is going to be a really good camera. And to sum it up, I'm going to show you just a couple samples in this video of this camera, one at daytime and one at nighttime. But overall, I'd say this camera is right up there with the best of them in the business. I don't think it's quite as good as the Samsung S7, but it is really, really close. It's probably neck and neck with the iPhone, or not the iPhone, but like the LG G5 and stuff of that nature. Now, some of you may disagree with me on that one, but let me know down in the comments. All I'm saying is that this phone, if you put it up at the top 5 smartphones cameras on the market, this one is in the top 5 at least. So yeah, camera is a solid, I'd say a solid 9 out of 10 here on the iPhone 7. I wanted to take a quick second to talk about the battery life on the iPhone 7. Now, a lot of people did tout, or not people, Tim Cook and company, they did tout that the iPhone 7 does have improved battery life. Well, the cell is actually bigger on the iPhone 7 than it was on the previous models. So it is a little bit better on battery life, and I did notice this. Now, I don't feel like this battery was quite as good as something like the iPhone SE or the Plus model devices, but it is better than the 6S, and it did get better battery life than the 6. So overall, how did this pan out in the real world? So in the real world, I think if you take this off charge, if you use it pretty heavily throughout the day, by the time you get to, let's say 5 o'clock, let's say you get at work at 9 o'clock in the morning, you get off work at 5, 6 p.m. in the late night. If you're somebody who's actually working and you got your phone in your pocket, you're gonna have plenty of battery life when you get out of work. But if you're on your phone all day at work, in the break room, in the lunchroom, in the bathroom, you know what I mean, have your phone out on the clock, I think you're going to leave work with about a good 30 to 40% when you leave the day here with the iPhone 7. Now, if you turn on low battery power mode, you probably have 50% by the time you get out of work. It's pretty strong battery life. But if you're using something like an iPhone 6s Plus, an iPhone 7 Plus, you're more than likely going to have like a good 65, 70% with those phones. So battery life, I would be saying it's good. It's not amazing, but it's really good. I'm actually pretty impressed with the battery life. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Battery life is not going to be something people are going to be whining about with the iPhone 7. I think battery life is pretty strong here for the iPhone 7. I'd give the battery life on this guy a solid 8 out of 10 on the battery life department. Now let's talk about the raw performance. I'm just going to run it through a quick app test just to show you how this guy performs in your everyday life here with a quick app switch test on the iPhone 7. Alright guys, let's run this through like a real world performance test. So we're going to go ahead and open up the iPhone 7. We're going to tap that Touch ID. We're going to go into settings. We're going to go into calendar. We're going to go into photos. We're going to come back out, go into clock, go into a weather here, come back out. You see there was a little chop, and I did notice that from time to time. I don't feel like the iPhone 7 is totally perfect. It is still a phone. It's not the perfect device. So don't think because you're seeing these articles, the iPhone 7 is the fastest device on the market. Yes, it might be the fastest device on the market, but that doesn't mean it's the perfect device. I did notice a few chops and glitches here and there. And maybe that's because iOS 10 is still in its infancy. Who knows? But overall, it's a very fast device overall. I still think Android's animations are quicker than iPhone, but I don't think that the actual optimization of opening the app is better on Android. So I do think the iPhone 7 is probably the fastest phone on the market. To be honest with you, it's very speedy overall, but it doesn't feel that much different than any other iPhone. Not really. It feels pretty much the same in the everyday use. I don't think you're going to notice that, wow, this phone is so fast. I don't think you're going to notice that unless you're coming from something like a 5S, a 4S, something really old. Then you'll notice like, oh, this is amazing. But if you've been on any of the newer phones, Android devices or Apple devices, this is going to feel right in line with the best technology on the market. But overall, how does it perform in the real life? I give this a solid 9 out of 10 until iOS 10 works out them glitches and kinks here and there, because I did notice a few glitches and even some things would hang, like the camera would hang sometimes here on the iPhone 7. So don't read those articles that are saying it's the fastest phone ever and feel like this is the perfect phone, because this is far from the perfect phone just yet. You would think with that A10 Fusion, all the hype, that this would be perfect, but I was shocked to find that some days, or not some days, once or twice a day, there would be a glitch here and there or a hang here and there on the iPhone 7, and that's on the latest iOS 10.0.1. Just sharing my experience. Let me know your experience down below in the comments section. Now let's get into the Geekbench scores for all of you who care about that Geekbenching on the iPhone 7. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and run a Geekbench on the iPhone 7. So if I go over here to the right, you're going to see Geekbench for iPhone 7, iOS 10.0.1, Apple A10 Fusion clocked in at 2.34 gigahertz with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Let's run a CPU benchmark and see the scores we get. Now, I already know the kind of scores it's getting. It gets the highest scores on the market in terms of its Geekbench scores, but does that make a difference in everyday use? Not really. These numbers never determine the full experience of a device. It's just like saying, oh, I'm just going to go buy this car just because it's got the best numbers under the hood, and then you take it out. For example, you go buy a sports car with raw horsepower and speed. You take it out, and after a few days, your back's broken because the seats are so hard or the suspension is so hard. But it has the fastest CPU on the market. You know what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that these numbers are just that. They're numbers. They're numbers to prove a point that this is a very optimized CPU. But does that make the experience of the iPhone 7 the best on the market just because you have a A10 Fusion? Well, that's a matter of perspective. It depends on your perspective on using an iPhone. If you like iPhone, this is probably one of the best iPhone experiences you're going to have. Although, that was a little bit strange, like I talked about in my previous section of this video, about the having a few glitches here and there on the iPhone 7. That was a little bit strange, in my opinion, because I haven't seen that on the SE, and that has an Apple A9 CPU. So, yeah, overall, let me go ahead and finish up this benchmark here, and I'll come back in just a second. Alright guys, we're back. You can see 3467 on the single core and 5518 on the multi-core. If you go to the single core, it's the top of the line, a little bit better than the Apple A9X CPU on the single core, and a little bit better than the Apple A9X CPU on the Apple iPad Pro. So, very fast CPU overall, but like I said, that doesn't determine the entire experience of the iPhone 7. Is it a very fast phone? Yes, it is. Is it the best experience phone? Well, that depends on your opinion and your personal experience and perspective on how you want to use your smartphone. So don't let the numbers fool you. Don't let those articles tell you Apple A10 Fusion, the fastest CPU ever on a smartphone, and go run out and buy the phone just because it says Apple A10 Fusion. I could tell you any Snapdragon 820, any what is it called, the Exynos chipsets on the newer Samsungs, or even the Kirin processors on the Huawei phones, they run really nice on those phones as well. So don't even think that the A10, just because it's an A10, that it's going to be the reason that you have to go out and run and get this iPhone. It's definitely not a deciding factor, in my opinion, as to going to get the iPhone. Unless you're somebody who's just going to use iPhone and want to keep it for 5 years, and it might be a deciding factor. I don't know about 5 years, but like at least 2 to 3 years, and you know you're not buying any other phone, that could be a deciding factor. But other than that, if you upgrade often, or if you care about the experience, that's not going to be the main deciding factor. So that is the raw performance in talking about the A10 on the iPhone 7. Now let's get into the storage and pricing. Alright guys, if you decide to buy the iPhone 7, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. The cheapest model was the 32GB, which was with tax. I spent over $700 on this device. If you go with the 60, no, I don't even have the 64. They have the 128, that's going to be over $800 with tax. If you go with the 256, that's going to be over, $969? It's going to be over $1,000 with tax on the iPhone. Well, that's a 7 Plus. It's going to be over $900 on the iPhone 7 with 256 gigs here. Now, the 7 Plus goes up $100 from there. So, do I even need to talk about it? We know Apple is the most expensive. However, I want to talk a little bit about the storage use cases. So, if you're a person who shoots video, do not get the 32GB one. I ran out of space almost already just shooting after one day, 200 pictures, couple of videos, maybe like 10, 15 videos, couple of 4K videos. I was almost out of space here on the 32GB version. So if you're a video photographer, go with the 128GB model. If you're somebody who just every day uses the iPhone, don't really do too much, or they delete stuff a lot off the iPhone, the 32GB will be fine for the most mainstream consumers. Still, heavy users, 32GB is still not enough, I don't think, for heavy users who want to be efficient in their work, using their iPhone for their work. For example, if you're somebody who uses your iPhone for your videography, your photography, your design work, you don't really want to be going and getting a 32GB and then having to be delayed in what you're doing because you have to go ahead and delete stuff. It really does cause a hassle when you're trying to be efficient in your work. So yeah, basically that's the storage and the pricing. It's going to cost you a pretty penny. If you want, to do work with this phone, if you're going to be using this phone for, like I say, your job, your freelance, whatever you're doing, go with the 120GB to be safe. If you're only using your iPhone as your main computer, that's all you do, you're using your iPhone for everything, go with the 256 gig. That's made for extreme users, I believe. I don't think most people are going to buy the 256 gig model. But yeah, that's the storage and the pricing. Now let's get into the value proposition of the iPhone 7. Alright guys, in this section I want to talk about the value proposition of the iPhone 7. So let's be real. This iPhone offers incredible value to your life depending on how you use it. I mean, it does everything. You can communicate, you can request the Uber, you can take cameras. It could be your... Actually, the 4K video I did on this, I shot this on the iPhone. I shot the 4K video on this iPhone. I edited this video in iMovie, as you can see right here. I edited the entire 4K camera test. You can check it out. I already did that a couple days ago. I mentioned it earlier. It's in the description. But I edited this on here. I uploaded it, wrote the description, did the thumbnail, everything right from the iPhone. I didn't even touch my laptop for this video. So it was pretty awesome that this had enough power to do all of that. So this offers incredible value for if you use it, if you use it $700 worth. Meaning that if you're going to be using this like a pro, if you're going to be using this in the sense of you're going to get your money back out of it, then I think that the cost is justified of an iPhone at this price point. Now, if you're somebody who's just using a phone to do some text messaging, calendar, phone, Safari, and you're tight on a budget, this is not something I would say go, use your money on and use it on, because I don't think that's a wise use of your money in terms of,
just a phone if it's gonna hurt your wallet. Now, if you got money in the bank, you balling like that, and some people are, shout out to the ballers out there, and this is just something that you want, you know, just go ahead and pick it up. You're gonna enjoy it. It's a premium experience, and I think you should enjoy the best things in life. And I think this is one of the better things. And I'm saying things, not experiences. You know, this is a thing. This is a product. This is not people, places, and experiences. This is a thing. So I'm just talking about material thing. This is one of the better material things you can enjoy in life. So if you want to do that, I would say why settle for less? Go get an iPhone 7. But for all of you who want an amazing experience and don't want to settle for less, no pun intended, OnePlus 3, go with a OnePlus 3 or something like that, a Nexus P or something like that. Even a cheaper Samsung used, like an S7 is going to run you like $4 something on eBay right now, where this is going to be like over $400 more than that, and it's going to offer probably a better experience. So what I want to say is that this is a very high class phone. It's a very, you know, premium phone. When it's new, the value is very high. And what I'm saying about value, I also want to mention is that what's great about the iPhone, it is one of the only phones that holds its value really well. So you can have this iPhone and you're not going to lose too much on its value year over year like you would on any other device. Other devices drop very fast. Like I bought a G4 in the summer and I'm very disappointed that I spent about $300 for it. And every month it seems to drop. And I'm just astonished that an LG G4 went from $300 on the used market in just a couple of months. It's all the way down to like $150. Like really? How does that happen? Like how does it happen? Because the name, the brand. When your brand is the largest brand in the world, people are like, hey, I need to get that iPhone. I have to have it. Because for some reason we associate brands with being cool or something like that, cool, quote unquote. And yeah, so if you got to have the latest, hottest, popular thing, this is going to be a good value for you. But if, you know, other than that, does it really live up to your price point? I'd say not really. I mean, like I said, there's so many other phones on the market that are going to give you a similar value for much better value in terms of your wallet. So who's this device for in terms of its value proposition? For somebody who doesn't care about the price of a phone, like me, I don't really care. Honestly, I go buy this phone, I don't care. But that's just me. I don't recommend everybody does that. People who are like, hey, I love technology, also me, I love technology, and I just want to experience the latest and greatest. I don't care what it costs. Them too. People who are really involved in the ecosystem of Apple. They have family members, friends, and they can't live without Apple, and they need a new phone. This might be a great phone for you. Also, people who are on carrier plans or getting promotion deals or doing trade-up programs to make it a lot easier on your wallet, then you could just disregard all that I said about the price because you're getting a deal. So if you're getting a deal, go for it. But if you're paying full retail, which a lot of people are right out of your wallet, I would reconsider the iPhone 7 and look what the competition has to offer. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. I'm just giving you my experience, and that is the value proposition and what I think about the overall cash value proposition on the iPhone 7. Now let's talk about my personal negative points where I kind of give you some biases. Now I'm going to really give you an intentional bias negative points of the iPhone 7 to let you know what I thought was negative about it. Let's go. All right, guys, my personal negative points about the iPhone 7. Now, these are my experiences. Take them for what you will. Don't take this as truth. This is my truth. This is what I've seen in my life. This is not 100% truth. This is my experience, and this is intentionally biased. I'm going to tell you what I didn't like about this device. So, I didn't like how slippery this device was. Now, this is the same with the iPhone 6S, the 6, whatever. This phone needs a case or it's eventually going to slip out of your hand. And people say that the jet black is even more slippery. They're all slippery. These iPhones at this size and aluminum casing, I think they're all pretty slippery, to be honest. Also, this back, it's not being seen on camera. Even the silver picks up fingerprints. Very weird because this is aluminum casing, but this does pick up fingerprints. If you get the black one, you'll see them even more on the iPhone 7. Another negative point that I had about the iPhone 7 is the taptic button. While it's a very amazing technology, I didn't like how sometimes if you could miss it. I felt like it was quicker, but I felt like the physical button was tried and true. It worked every time. This one you could actually miss a couple times if you put your thumb over to the side, but if you click on the bottom of your thumb with a physical press, you're always going to hit it 100%. So this one, while it's very accurate, very nice technology, I didn't like that sometimes it could be missed. It's not 100% perfect yet. This is the first iteration of the Taptic engine for the iPhone 7. And while an awesome first attempt, I would have to take a point off out of 10 just because sometimes I missed it in reality. Another negative point, and a big one, is the no headphone jack. Now, I don't know about you, but I always have my headphones plugged into that 3.5 millimeter jack, like all day. I'm always monitoring audio, listening to music. I even make calls through that. And I know it's not a big deal. You could just go buy a lightning headphone, but why do you want to inconvenience people like that and make them go out and spend more money to get an iPhone, another headset jack? Like, it's kind of an inconvenience. You think about people who are working, you know, they got stuff to do all the time or whatever. They're just trying to get their stuff together. They're doing their stuff. They just want to go in and buy a phone, and now they got to take time out and research and find some headphones. I think that's a little bit annoying. But you know what? Sometimes for change, courage, you could say, courage, you have to go out and make some changes and take some responsibility for your decisions. And that's what you're going to have to do. If you decide to buy an iPhone 7, you're going to have to take the responsibility of going to get a headphone jack, or you could just use the dongle that came with it. But look at that thing. How easy you think that's going to be to lose? That's totally an opinion. You might think that's going to be not easy to lose or easy to lose, but it does fit in there tightly. So it's up to you. It's just going to be a little bit weird hanging that thing from the bottom. Now, a lot of people are saying Bluetooth headphones are the way of the future. Well, yeah, Bluetooth headphones are already here and they're great. But I don't know about you, but Bluetooth headphones drain the battery, and I don't like headphones draining the battery. It's our headphones already, or our smartphones, not our headphones. Our smartphones already we're still trying to find a way to get the most amazing battery life on our smartphones. Where, I mean, a Nokia's back in the day could go a week on a charge. These things are still only doing a day. These smartphones are only doing a day. So why add a way to decrease battery life even more, having our Bluetooth toggled on all day? So that's a negative point there. Another negative point I found is that the iPhone 7 heated up. It did heat up, not uncomfortably warm, never uncomfortably warm. It heated up quite a bit here when doing heavy tasking. So you did feel it. It's not perfect. It doesn't stay cool like you think that A10 Fusion does stay cool. It does heat up a bit when you're running it heavy. To be expected? Sure. Pleasant? Not really. It's not going to blow up like some older Note 7s. And but it's still heated up, and I have to point out that negative point there. And a final negative point, if you watched my camera review, the OIS was a little bit twitchy on action shots when I was jumping and stuff. I don't know what happened. It was warping for me. This might just be my unit, but when I was running or jumping with the iPhone, this camera was warping all over the place. And what I mean by that is that you could see all kinds of, I don't even know how to describe it, just warping in the photo and the video. It's just all kinds of blur and stuff like that in the photo. But overall, I'd say that's just about it on my negative points of the iPhone 7. Now, I don't think I'm just being a negative Nancy here. We're going to talk about my positive points right now. So let's get into my positive points. All right, guys, what are my positive points of the iPhone 7? So my positive points, number one is the water resistance and dust resistance. That's always welcome on any phone. And I think that makes this phone intriguing over something like the iPhone 6s. People who, I mean, it's a marketing gimmick, I think, because I think most people have trained themselves habitually and psychologically to not put their electronics near water. However, to have that peace of mind that if you do happen to drop your iPhone or your whatever phone, in any kind of phone, near water, to have that peace of mind that it's not going to be damaged through that or dust is very nice to have. So I think that is intriguing to a lot of people. Like I say, I don't think people are still going to put their phones in water, but to just know it's there is there. I've had phones for years and I've never really got them wet. I mean, it's kind of like, who does that? Who's going to purposely put water on a piece of electronics? They just don't mix. But I guess they mix a little bit here on the iPhone 7. Another positive feature was that nicely upgraded front-facing camera with 1080p recording. The 1080p on this was beautiful, very sharp front-facing camera. I think you guys are gonna love this phone's front-facing camera. Selfie people, people who do a lot of video from the front, this is very nice video from the front here. Also, the rear camera took amazingly sharp pictures, very contrasty and punchy, not overly saturated like on the Super AMOLED, but that might be pleasing to some on Galaxy S7s of the world. But very, very nice camera overall. Regardless of the fact that I said it had some warping in the video, I still think this is one of the better, if not the best camera on a smaller phone here on the market today. That can be an opinion for some. So another thing I liked about this phone is it charged really fast. Now, the iPhone 7 doesn't have wireless charging, but it was damn close to some of the wireless charging phones on the market. It only took about 35 to 36 minutes to charge from 50 to 100 in my experience. It charged pretty quickly with the included charger. So good job, Apple, on going ahead and making this charge pretty quickly for not having a fast charger. Another positive aspect of the iPhone 7 is the speed. I just love the speed of this, and this includes the A9. So I'm talking from the perspective of an older iPhone user. The speed on this device is just beautiful. You can whip this device out and it's just reliable. You know you're gonna be able to get your tasks done and done quick. And it's actually addictingly fast. So you might want to be careful that you're not on your smartphone all day, because this phone is really that quick that you just want to keep using it. Another amazing feature I found, or positive thing about this device, was Apple Pay. And this is not exclusive to the iPhone 7, but hey, we gotta mention it here. Having a wallet in your phone and being able to pay wherever you go is always welcome here to anyone. And there's been times where I've left the house without the wallet, and I had my iPhone 7 with the wallet enabled, and I was able to make a purchase. And that is amazing. I don't care what anybody says. How do we go from having a big wallet to the today and age where our cell phone has a credit card built in? Yeah, some people might say it's unsafe, but with end-to-end encryption, if you don't understand what that means, basically, this is extremely, extremely rare, extremely hard to crack. And if you're gonna live in fear, then don't use wallet. But if you wanna have some of the greatest technology, use wallet on your iPhone. So that's another positive feature on the iPhone. What's another positive feature? Well, the call quality. The call quality was amazing on the iPhone. And another positive feature I liked about the iPhone in general was the sound quality of the speakers. They were just incredible. So yeah, that's pretty much my positive aspects of the iPhone 7. And don't let me forget the design. I like the seamless design, especially on the silver here. It reminds me of the MacBook. It feels very smooth and soft. So that is my positive aspects of the iPhone 7. Now let's get into the conclusions and who I think this device is for, and wrap up this full in-depth review of the iPhone 7. Alright guys, who is the Apple iPhone 7 for? Let's wrap this up really quickly. Do you want some of the most premium technology on the market and you have the money to spend for an iPhone 7? This is probably going to be it if you enjoy iOS. It does have many features. I'm not going to talk about them. We talked about them throughout this video. This is going to be for somebody who's heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem and wants the latest and greatest technology from Apple. This is also going to be for somebody who wants a very reliable phone in pretty much all categories. It's pretty much an all-around phone that does pretty much everything you need it to do. And also, this is going to be a great phone to gift to somebody for graduating school or whatever. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. This would be a very beautiful gift for that. And if you just like iPhone and you like to play with all the tech, this could be a phone for you. And that's pretty much, I sum up who this device is for. This is not for people who have a 6S, I think, or, you know, an iPhone SE. You should probably just stay with those. They have really good processors. You don't really need to do this unless you just gotta have the latest and greatest thing. This is not a need, this is more of a luxury for those of you who have a more current smartphone. But that's pretty much going to wrap this full review up of the iPhone 7. If you guys enjoyed it, you know what to do. Go ahead and click the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel for more technology videos like this. Be sure to be well. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and peace.
No, no.